It's time for the Burning River Sportscast. Nothing spells redemption quite like a win over the Steelers. The offense continues to roll behind Nick Chubb and an efficient Jacoby Brissett. The defense showed signs of life but still has a ways to go. And there's still nothing special about Mike Prefer. And oh yeah, your Cleveland Guardians have clinched the AL Central. And we break it all down for you next on the Burning River Sportscast.
We'll add them to the list. Steelers, Jets, Commanders, Josh McDaniels, all trash.
Trash.
F them all.
F them all.
How was your weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time in the urgent care. Big dumper.
And
that was Pickens that was offsides, by the way.
Was it?
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. And then they ran a real prevent defense this week. Can you believe it? They actually did it. Deep is the deepest, man.
Welcome into the Burning River Sportscast. I'm Kenny Thunder, alongside my co-host and former lead singer of Imagine Dragons, Red Hot Ronnie Jams. We have a jam-packed show for you here today. Ronnie, tell our friends where they can find us.
First of all, I never was in Imagine Dragons, but I'll accept it.
That wasn't you?
No, that wasn't me.
Oh.
But you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, Castro, and so many more. Basically, wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever you get your casts. So thank you, Mr. Jams. Tell us, how did you find this lovely weekend? The first of the fall season. Did you spend it sipping on some pumpkin spice? Everything nice?
I did not. I get pumpkin spice at the beginning of every season when it comes out at Starbucks, and it's terrible every time. And then I never get it again the rest of the season. So,
you brought me a pumpkin spice a couple weeks ago.
That was the time that I had it this year, and it was not good. But no, this weekend was good. The Browns won. I was on cloud nine all weekend because they won on a Thursday. I was able to relax a little bit, as much as I could. Wife's, doing November first baby.
She's getting up there, huh?
Yep. So we had the baby shower, was on Sunday, and that went very, very well. Everybody turned out. It was very nice.
Well, thank goodness the Browns won and played on Thursday.
I know.
Made that easier.
I'm glad they didn't lose in some horrible fashion once again, because I may have had a heart attack before I got to meet my child. So
fair.
Speaking of heart attacks, how was your weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time in the urgent care. I don't know if it's work related or working with you related or Browns related. But just, having some run-of-the-mill palpitations and whatnot.
Oops.
So that's fun.
You're doing well now, though, right? You're breathing deeply, but you're doing well.
We'll see. I'm here, That's all I can ask for.
All right, well, let's get into week 3 with the Browns. Browns versus Steelers this week. Again, always good when the Steelers lose. Like I said, I was on cloud nine all weekend, feeling great. And before we get into the actual recap of the game, those orange pants are fire, man.
Fire, so fire. My first note.
Orange pants are fire.
Orange pants are fire.
Donovan Mitchell smashed the Steelers guitar before the game. That was pretty cool.
Sure did, and had a DG sighting out there as well.
Yeah, Darius Garland kind of stood there and just waved.
They should have just given him each a guitar.
Well, did you notice they gave him a microphone that doesn't work? So that was good.
I think they did that to Joe too the week before.
Yeah, it was not good. They really need to get that microphone figured out.
Speaking of guitars, though, did you hear the kid at halftime?
Oh, he was good.
That was fantastic.
He was good.
He really rocked out.
But no, the Donovan Mitchell smashing the Steelers guitar got me really, really turned and ready to go. So I was happy about it. So let's go ahead and get into the game here. As always, we're going to start with our opponent, the Steelers. On offense, Mitchell Trubisky. He was Mitchell Trubisky.
Not very good.
Not very bad, just not very good either. He was just kind of you could have put anybody back there and it probably would have been the same result.
Just very average.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's fair that it's all Trubisky. I think watching that game, I can see where the frustration's coming from, because I do think a lot of it has to do with scheme. We talked a little bit about the receivers that they have are pretty good athletes, and they just weren't pushing the ball down the field. And when they did, the balls weren't necessarily accurate. So I can see why the coaching staff is trying to be conservative there. But
I feel like their offense looks a lot like some of the Browns' offenses of the past, where you have a couple good athletes and then everybody's just frustrated because you just can't utilize them.
Yeah, and I don't know that there's an answer there for them right now. I don't know that Kenny Pickett's going to be able to step in and run that offense any better right now than Mitch Trubisky is, because I think they have a lot more holes than just Mitch Trubisky.
So Mitchell Trubisky, though, 20 of 32, 207 for his yardage, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 2 rushes for 7 yards. He did get in on a rush, but I mean, yeah, pretty pedestrian. So,
and that was when he was at his best, when he was kind of rolling out of the pocket. Obviously, the scramble for the touchdown, good play there. But yeah, he's just not. He's Mitch Trubisky, man.
Yeah, he is who we thought he was. You know, we come back to that saying all the time, but he is who we thought he was.
Genius.
Najee Harris, that was my player to watch. I said if we could contain him, we probably are going to win the game because he's their best player, and really they kind of go as he goes on offense.
He looked slow to me.
Well, he has a foot injury this year.
Yeah, so that's really concerning. He's kind of a bigger stature back anyway. So if he's already in a position where injuries are starting to pile up and slow him down, doesn't bode well for the Steelers long term.
No. So he had 15 carries for 56 yards. He did get in for a touchdown and added 5 yards on 3 catches.
Woo, big day.
Yeah, so kept him in check, and the Browns won the game. I mean, it's pretty simple. Deontay Johnson, their big-name receiver, 8 receptions, 84 yards. So he played well. He did. I mean, Deontay Johnson is, as far as athletes go, he's the best athlete on that offense by far.
Yeah, I think.
Well, I guess I could argue George Pickens, who we'll get to in just a second. But
well, and again, I think that's where the frustration is, right? You know, you have Johnson, you have Claypool, you have the emergence of George Pickens. All 3 very, very adequate to above average, in terms of athleticism.
Yeah, they've got a pretty good receiving core.
And if they had a quarterback who can throw the ball,
how would they
be okay?
Happy trails, Big Ben. Speaking of George Pickens, he didn't have a particularly huge day, but that was Kenny's player to watch. And boy, if you watched him, he delivered just with that one catch. I mean, he had 3 receptions for 39 yards, but he had a highlight that was in the same vein as like OBJ his rookie season.
It was the play of the game.
Oh, by far.
And it was on the most like meaningless play.
Oh, absolutely. But it was, the reason why it's getting so much attention. It was Thursday night game, prime time. Amazon Prime is doing big things for their broadcasts. So, he couldn't have picked a better time to make that catch.
Yeah. Spectacular catch. And again, just the people in Pittsburgh know that they have something there.
I will say it was in the same vein as OBJ, but it definitely was not as good because OBJ's for a touchdown and it was wild.
Oh, yeah. I mean, OBJ is forever the guy that originated that type of catch now, and I think everybody just throws their hand up at any ball now trying to get a catch like that, but still impressive. I mean, just the strength in his one hand to catch the tip of the ball.
Oh, there was no question either. He just clawed that thing and pulled it in. It was pretty wild to see.
With a man all over him. Like, that was impressive, but
the Steelers defense, really nothing to write home about. I mean, they had 2 sacks. They didn't force any turnovers, but they couldn't. I mean, the biggest thing is that we actually didn't rack up as many rushing yards as we have thus far this season on some other teams, but they still couldn't stop the run, just like every other team we've played. You just can't stop the 2-headed monster of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Yeah. The Steelers are kind of trash.
Oh yeah, here we go. You said it last week.
They're not very good, and they have some pieces there.
They do,
but right now they are not a very good football team. So
they're definitely not the Steelers we're used to seeing, and they're far more reminiscent, as I mentioned before, of some Browns teams in the past where they have a lot of pieces, but things have to keep moving in the right direction for them to capitalize.
Yeah, and I don't think Matt Canada is long there.
His last name's Canada. I said it last week.
So he should be deported. And Trubisky at some point is going to get the axe, and the rookie's going to get a chance to play. So I don't know what the rest of the season looks like for them, but I can tell you that right now they are not a very good football team. So I probably shouldn't have picked them to win last week.
But you did, because you're an idiot.
History is a cruel nightingale. You know what they say.
Everybody says that. So let's go over to the Cleveland side here. Cleveland's offense is what we'll start with. Jacoby Brissett. He just continues to play very, very well. He's not lighting it up. But he's taking very good care of the football, and he's moving the chains consistently.
Just incredibly efficient.
Yeah. So his numbers for the day: 21 of 31, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions.
And I think if you look at the advanced metrics,
he also had 3 rushes for 11 yards, and all of them were for first downs.
And QBR and such. Like he's among the leaders in advanced metrics and QBR. So.
Well, did you see? He played so well, and he had so many people inspired in that Thursday night game that the NFL actually changed their banner image on Twitter to Jacoby Brissett for about 24 hours, and then they changed it to something else.
Yeah, I mean, he's spurred some really interesting conversations in Cleveland just over the last couple of weeks. I mean, there's a lot of nonsense going on around. If Jacoby keeps playing well and the Browns keep winning. What happens when Deshaun's ready to come back?
Look, me and you have touched on this already this season, and I'm assuming you're sticking to it as well. We paid Deshaun Watson $230 million guaranteed. It doesn't matter how well Jacoby plays.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Deshaun's starting when he comes back.
If Jacoby plays like this all year, we're really fortunate, and we will be in a lot of games. That being said, I think Deshaun makes you a 2-touchdown winner against New York, probably a 2-touchdown winner, 3-touchdown winner against Pittsburgh without even playing the game, right?
Well, and yeah, I agree. Jacoby has been so efficient this year, and we love that. That's great. But the fact is, Deshaun is one of those quarterbacks that can, any given day, he can pop off for 350, 400 yards.
Yeah, and 4 or 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, and if we, like you said, if we do that against some of these inferior opponents, it's not there was an onside kick, and we actually decided to close out the game this week and won. We won decisively.
And I think it's easy right now to get caught up in the Jacoby hype because we haven't played teams that were very good. When we play some of these better teams
it's coming
up, and you might end up down a score or two going, okay, offense, like you get a little anxious. Like you're going to wish you had a guy like Deshaun.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's where it starts showing is if we haven't been behind really. I mean, we've played from ahead most of the season, and once we get behind, I don't know. I hope he can prove me wrong, but at this point, I don't know that you can play from behind with Jacoby Brissett and win a lot of games.
Look, if you would have said, when you were making the schedule and stuff, like before we knew who we were going to play and when, that Deshaun Watson's going to be out 11 games, and we're going to start with just 4 of like the most inept offenses and poor defenses, backup quarterbacks. Like it couldn't have lined up any better for us to play ball control offense and have an efficient passing game. I mean it's enough to win and be in each of these games.
We've spent way more time on Jacoby than I was planning on, but I mean he is a hot topic in Cleveland now.
It's the recap of the game, man. We beat the Steelers.
We beat the freaking Steelers.
Get excited.
So good. Never mind. Speaking of that, Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb just continues to be Nick Chubb. 23 carries, 113 yards, 1 touchdown. Listen to some of these advanced stats that I have for you. 102 yards after contact this week. 7 missed tackles forced. After that game, I don't know if it's still held after Sunday, but after Thursday's game, he had more missed tackles forced on runs this season than any other team in the NFL. Whole teams. He has the most games with 100-plus rushing yards since 2018 at 24. Derrick Henry is actually behind him at 23. And Derrick Henry did not get 100 yards on Sunday, so he's still at that 23. And then during the game, he passed Kevin Mack for 5th on the all-time Browns rushing list, and he's about 300 yards behind Greg Pruitt for 4th.
Yeah. We don't deserve Nick Chubb.
Nobody deserves Nick Chubb.
Nobody deserves Nick Chubb. I would do anything for that man, no matter what he asked. Love him.
When Kenny says anything,
I mean anything.
But did you catch the interview after the game?
No, I was just so busy replaying the game in my head, just watching him bounce off of people like a pinball that couldn't think of much else.
Well, he was typical Nick Chubb. They're interviewing him after the game, and all he's doing is heaping praise on everybody else besides him. So
because he's Nick Chubb,
it was just fantastic.
That's what he does.
Next up, Kareem Hunt, 12 carries, 47 yards, 3 receptions, 14 yards. A little quieter from Kareem than we've seen, but I mean, he got first downs in big time spots of the game to make, keep drives going and keep us rolling, basically.
Yeah, another productive day out of Kareem. And to be fair, he probably should have had a touchdown on the board. They gave him the ball, I think, 3 times in a row on the goal line, and he just couldn't punch it in.
It just happens every once in a while.
But they gave it to Nick Chubb, and he did.
Well.
But, yeah, I mean, I think if he had the touchdown on that stat line, you're like, oh, it's a good game for Kareem. I mean, it was just he didn't make it in the end zone.
Amari Cooper, 7 receptions, 101 yards, and a touchdown.
Whew.
So glad we got that guy.
He's been fun to watch. Just, again, so smooth on the routes and great hands. And just he's the perfect complement to our offense, our running game.
Yeah, and I mentioned it last week. Everybody around the building in Cleveland, they can't stop talking about how the relationship between Jacoby and Amari just continues to flourish. They're playing very well together. They're pretty close in the locker room, and I mean, it's really starting to show. That's 2 games in a row that he's had over 100 yards and a touchdown. I think last game he had 2. But did he have 2 touchdowns last week or just 1? Either way, over 100 yards and a touchdown each of his last 2 games, and they're really coming together. So,
yeah, impressive.
Next up, DPJ. He's, I wanted to touch on this because he had that really big week the first week. He played very well, and I wouldn't say really big. It was like 6 for 60, but I mean, he played well. Caught a lot of passes in with people draped all over him or whatever. But he had 1 reception for 10 yards. And basically been non-existent since that week 1.
I think that's what we were worried about, right? Is that this wide receiver room not being super deep. So, I mean, you have to have a guy like Amari show up big every week because you just can't count on that production out of DPJ. I think he does a lot in terms of helping on the running game. I think he is a good downfield blocker. He tackled Nick Chubb at one point during this game.
He stopped the touchdown. Don't do that. He's on our team.
But yeah, I think just inconsistency there, and maybe that's something that'll change when Deshaun gets on the field. I mean, we threw the ball 30 times, and we didn't need to even throw it that many, so
no.
It wasn't that tight of a game. Yeah, I think as the offense opens up a little more under Deshaun, maybe with just the additional targets, you'll see some additional production.
We're rounding out the receiving core. Anthony Schwartz involved just the right amount.
Goose egg again. I like it.
Zeros everywhere. When he doesn't play offense, it seems like our offense plays better.
I didn't even see him on the field.
Neither did I. Was he even active?
That I guess I don't know.
I'd have to check. I looked and I didn't see anything that said he was a healthy scratch or anything.
I would assume he was active because I would assume that he's a reserve return guy. But
either way, he didn't see the offensive field.
He didn't.
And if he did, we didn't see him.
Speaking of receiving core, though, I'm rounding that out. We had David Bell sightings.
We did. I'm so excited.
I mean, it was just 1 catch for 6 yards, but he's your Venus flytrap.
The Venus flytrap gets on the board.
I think he dropped a pass on the next possession, but
he wasn't very Venus-like on that one. But listen, no, I really think that's going to continue to develop. I mean, he wasn't a guy that everybody looked at as like he's pro ready. He's just going to come out the gates and be a phenomenal receiver. That's part of the reason why he slipped a little bit, even though he had such high production in college. So I expect him to continue to develop throughout the year, and I think by the end of the season, he's going to be a solid receiver for us, especially since Anthony Schwartz has disappeared, and now we're playing with 2 receivers.
Yeah, and I don't know if that wasn't by design, too, just from him being a rookie and not being a highly touted, highly acclaimed guy coming in. It would make sense. I could see that being like a very intentional move by Kevin Stefanski to say, hey, we're going to let you watch the first couple games, get a feel for the NFL offense on Sundays, and then we'll start working you in slowly.
Well, you mentioned the schedule. I mean, that plays well to being able to do that, right? You start out with some easy games.
Sure, you should be 3-0 right now, but you gave a gift there to the Jets. So
yep. Offensive line, 2 sacks given up, but they paved the way for 171 yards rushing, and they continue to play well.
Conklin back. back in the lineup. So you got the crew together. Scary moment there temporarily when Jed Wills went out.
It was scary.
You need continuity out of that offensive line. I think if you look at statistics over the last couple of years, like when they play together, they're one of the best in the league. Start poking holes in that, not great.
Yep. So that takes care of the offense for the Cleveland Browns. Let's flip it over here and start talking about their defense.
You want to flip it over?
So, Myles Garrett, we start with him every week, and there's a reason for it. He's our best defensive player, but I mean, he was pretty quiet in this one. His only stat was 1 QB hurry.
Yeah, I think you see how important the loss of someone like Clowney is, and depth around Clowney because Chase Winovich was out as well. So,
we mentioned it on last week's show. Myles Garrett was going to get double teamed the entire game, and you knew it coming in,
and he did.
And he did, and he was on the sideline quite a bit in the second half, gasping for air there, and I think that probably played into it when you're getting, 2 guys thrown at you on every play, sometimes 3 if you watched. It's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, you can only do so much, right? I mean, you're always hoping, especially, when the game got a little goofy towards the end, for a guy like Myles to show up and make a play. But it's true, like you can only...
do what you can
only
do.
Impact the game so much when they're throwing 2 and 3 blockers at you consistently.
Yep. And then we got Anthony Walker, our captain on defense. He played well in this one until the injury. So we'll get to the injury report here soon. But Anthony Walker is done for the season. So
that's a big loss for this Browns defense.
It is. They all talk about him being the heart and soul and just really running the defense.
Losing leadership vibes and a productive player. I mean, I think he was one of the top 3, just leading tacklers for the first 3 weeks of the year. So big loss.
Yeah, but that does lead me to Jacob Phillips. He came in and he filled in admirably for the fallen Anthony Walker. That dude came in like a man possessed. He has some freaking wheels. He was chasing people down, hawking people left and right.
Lightning fast for a guy his size.
Oh my gosh.
I was impressed, and I've heard folks say like you're going to be happy with him coming back this year. We just haven't seen it yet. And when Walker went down, he was impressive in the short amount of time he got to play. I mean, he made real materially important plays down the stretch.
And like you said, the leadership from Anthony Walker is invaluable.
True.
But if Jacob Phillips can continue to play like he did on Thursday,
he'll make himself into a leader.
Oh yeah, people are going to listen real fast. The secondary, they actually played much better than they have the first 2 games. So,
and I'm not sure if that's a byproduct of supporting Matt Canada and Mitchell Trubisky just not being great. But yeah, improvements. So I'll take it.
Yeah, I would say just because it's a division rivalry and those games are always tough regardless of what's going on with the teams. I think it's a good bounce back game for them, and it's something to build on going forward. So sometimes you need that easy game to really, all right, we got our feet under us a little bit. Now let's move on from here.
Well, that was supposed to be the Jets game.
Denzel Ward, speaking of the secondary, he did have 2 deflected passes, several other breakups, and he hopped on that fumble as time expired to put the exclamation point on the win. So a much better game from him than we've seen thus far.
I liked Al Michaels at the end talking about
some people are going to be happy in Vegas.
Bettors.
Yeah. That was pretty funny because I think that went from us not covering.
Well, the line was the last I looked at the line before the game, it was like 5.5, so it could have been 6 at game time. So yeah,
we went from not covering to covering, and a lot of people either lost or won money, and you're either really really happy or really really mad right now. So
yep.
Grant Delpit and John Johnson in the secondary, they were all over the field. I mean, between those 2, I think it was something like 11 or 12 tackles in this game. So
yeah, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I'm just dumping all over the Browns defense in the secondary because I think there is good there, and you still have you have a lot of athleticism and you have a lot of youth that's developing in a good way. So there's a lot of potential there the rest of the season.
Don't worry, you like to dump a lot on people's. So, yeah.
Big dumper.
So I made sure I put in all these guys in the secondary to give them their props, even though you were just ready to dump on them again. So, Martin Emerson played well for the most part, although he did give up the George Pickens crazy catch. So
everybody would have given that up.
Well, yeah, there was no stopping it. He went from being right next to him to separated by probably 8-9 feet when he dove. So.
Yeah, I mean, if Pittsburgh ever gets a quarterback,
that guy's going to be special.
He's going to do something.
So let's move into the special teams real quick. Just do
yeah. Speaking of props, I know you probably have the kicker on here first, but how about Bajorquez's second punt went for 25 yards after it was blocked. Partially blocked.
Well, that's not his fault that they got through.
I still blame him because we gave him props last week. We were like, yeah, Bajorquez.
See? Kenny jinxed it. He was like, I'm going to talk about the punter. And then the punter goes in.
This is why we don't talk about punters.
He did put 2 more inside the 20, in case you were wondering, though. So
I don't care.
Cade York, 1 for 1 on field goals, but he did miss another extra point.
Yeah, not looking great. I'll be honest. I'm waiting for my Cade York jersey. I ordered one.
You did?
But
I'm jealous.
In the last 2 weeks, I think the confidence level has fallen considerably.
It is fallen off greatly. Greatly.
That was one of my concerns when we started the season, that kickers just tend to fall out of favor so quickly. And not doing himself any favors, missing extra points.
No.
Not good.
No, he's definitely got to shore that up. But he did hit his field goal, so those,
yay.
You win some, you lose some. And finally for the special teams here, Chester Rogers.
Woo,
I just have Chester Rogers is greater than Demetric Felton. That's my game note.
He caught the ball.
He looks so much better back there.
And he did look smooth. He looked comfortable.
When the punt's coming, he didn't look like he was scared. He was just like, I
don't even know if that means he's going to get to play the rest of the year. He may be a one and done guy because I think they just brought him up this week.
Yeah.
But even that
if you ask me, my vote is for Chester Rogers.
Even that said, he looked 1,000 times more comfortable. He looked like a guy that has returned kicks in the past.
Yep.
At some
absolutely. Point. So yeah, I mean, overall for the Browns game, total yards, Browns 376, Steelers 308. But the time of possession, this is where they continue to shine. The Browns 36-09, Steelers 23-51, and that's kind of what we've been saying all along. You got to control the clock. You got to play good defense. That's how you win these games until Deshaun Watson comes back, right?
Run the damn ball.
So the one note that I had here, one of the notes that I had here, didn't only have one note. Players only meeting on Wednesday seems to have paid off thus far. They had their shit much more together in this game. The ending of the game,
up until the end.
The ending of the game started to get very, very familiar. It seemed very similar to the end of the Jets game, but this time it was the opposite. Everyone kind of took care of what they needed to take care of at the end. Even if the Steelers didn't go offsides on the onside kick attempt, did you see that the guy smacked it out of bounds so that nobody would be recovering it?
Yeah, but it shouldn't even have gotten that far. I mean,
but
it's scary again.
In the end, they were able to run some clock. There was a great punt there at the end.
That was Pickens. It was offsides, by the way.
Was it?
Yep.
Son of a bitch. And then they ran a real prevent defense this week. Can you believe it? They actually did it. Deep is the deepest, man. So they handled business against an inferior opponent, and they walked away with the win.
Yes, inferior opponent for sure.
So this is kind of, like we said, this is what they need to do going forward, and we're going to have to try and steal one from some of these better teams that we have coming up on the schedule. There's a pretty tough stretch. The Falcons aren't part of it, but after the Falcons, there's a pretty tough stretch here.
True. I will say just a couple other quick game notes that I had.
Sure.
They showed Phil Dawson's flags.
Nice.
So I thought that was cool that Phil Dawson's flags.
Amazon diving deep
on national television. Also, I have a note that the autumnal equinox starts at 9:04. Al Michaels said with authority, "Oh, it's 9:04. It's the first day of fall now." Is that really the autumnal equinox? At 9:04 on the first day of fall?
Well, funny you should mention that, Kenny. The autumnal equinox is an astronomical event that marks the start of autumn, or fall, as we like to call it in many places. In the northern hemisphere, the autumnal equinox occurs in September. In the southern hemisphere, it occurs in March. But during an equinox, the sun crosses what we call the celestial equator. It's an imaginary extension of Earth's equator line into space. And so basically, the equinox occurs precisely when the sun's center passes through that line. So yes, it was exactly at 9:04 p.m.
So 9:04 is the precise time
this
that
year
a celestial body arbitrarily crosses an imaginary line.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah. So a good fact to throw out by Al Michaels. Good job, buddy.
Also, can we talk about the fact that Kenny Pickett was called Kenny Powers during the pregame show, and then Kirk Herbstreit called him Ryan Pickett?
So much disrespect.
The disrespect for a guy that's not even made it onto the field yet.
No. And he's highly touted. Like they're talking about he's probably the future of that team. Yet here we are, and they're calling him Kenny Powers and Ryan Pickett.
Big draft pick.
Two different guys in the Amazon broadcast got his name wrong.
I mean, come on.
You know, we're bashing Amazon. I think other than that, they did a really, really nice job with the broadcast.
I did think the broadcast was good, and I know that was a big talking point just for a lot of folks leading up to the game. Obviously, folks upset about streaming and having to pay and all this stuff, and I know the game was carried locally.
The future is streaming!
So I don't even care. What I will say is what I thought was very cool, in addition to just the way that they presented the game, which I thought was top-notch. And you can't go wrong with Al Michaels.
They put some money into that broadcast team.
Strange. Kirk Herbstreit calling NFL games.
That was odd.
Weird.
That was odd.
But I like Kirk.
He did well though.
He's an Ohio State guy. So, and I thought it was weird how much Al Michaels kept kind of chiding him to be like, "Oh, you're from Ohio," and like Kirk's not really he's not like a Cleveland guy. He's just an Ohio.
Well, and he's
guy.
one of the most fair. If you watch Kirk Herbstreit, he's one of the most fair broadcasters. Even when he does Ohio State games, he gives the other team he does his homework and he gives the other team props where they're due. And
I think because of the amount of time that he spent on TV covering college football and just the proficiency of Ohio State, he has worked hard intentionally to not be an Ohio State homer.
If you didn't know he was an ex-Ohio State quarterback and caught the he will subtly throw in compliments for Ohio State, but if you didn't know that and catch those, you would think he's pretty much right down the middle. He's just
sometimes I'm like, man, this guy hates Ohio State, and I'm like, why?
He will bash them when they're playing bad. So,
but anyway, going back to Amazon real quick. What I thought was really cool.
We do not endorse Amazon, by the way.
They should endorse us. Amazon, send me your money.
What the hell?
Bezos.
But back to you, Kenny.
Call me Jeff. Great broadcast. Good broadcast team. I thought was really cool was when I was the commercials were running and you could hit your button on your Fire Stick and it would take you back to the last touchdown.
That was nice.
They have the All 22 broadcast and some of that. What I am excited about is not where that is today. I think they're just scratching the surface of features that are going to be added as streaming becomes much more mainstream for sports, because they've already done it for movies, right? If you're watching a movie on Amazon, you can kind of click in and see the IMDb and the whole cast and trivia. That stuff is coming for sports.
Another Amazon shout out, because I just love them so much.
Call me Jeff.
I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and we've been watching Rings of Power, and it's pretty awesome when during the show. It actually will show beneath it when you hit down on your remote. It will show who's in the scene at that time, link to their IMDb, and then it also links to the book in case you want to buy the book and brush up on your Lord of the Rings facts.
Oh, yeah. You never miss an opportunity to sell something.
No, but I actually like it because it's awesome. I'm like, who is that? Who's that guy's name?
100%. And I think what's going to be neat is that I can see a day coming where you can go on your Amazon Prime account and upload your fantasy lineup, and you'll probably get a running ticker all game long of the guys.
Amazon, get into fantasy football.
It's just a matter of creating an immersive, fully integrated experience that cable can never match. You want to talk about death to cable and cord cutters. I don't want to get super political here, but that's what's coming, and they can do it, and cable just can't.
You want to know what's going to cause the death to cable?
Their cost.
How much do you pay for cable, Kenny?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, it's so much.
How much?
Like, if I quit paying for cable, I could buy another car.
Meanwhile, my YouTube TV is a flat rate of like $60 a month or whatever it is.
I mean, seriously, I could lease a car for what I pay for cable.
I think it's $65 now, but still. Well under the cable price. Anyways, we got off on a big tangent there. Let's get back to the game. One other note that I did have for the game, Kevin Stefanski, why did you receive to start the game? You don't do that.
Because we have such a prolific offense.
You literally you don't do that. And you know what that did is in the fourth quarter that caused us to not be able to kick a field goal because we were into the wind on a very, very windy night. That doesn't happen knowing your own field when you choose to defer. And then you could say, we want to go with the wind in the fourth quarter when it matters. No, we wanted to receive and go 3 and out or whatever the hell we did on the first series. I think we got 1 first down and then we punted.
Yeah, that was...
Sorry, I was fired up. I was really mad about that when it happened.
Another tangent. I have one final note in addition to that, and it's... two. I liked when Taki made the tackle and Al Michaels made a Taki joke. It was like good one now.
That guy's so funny.
And also,
you think about stand up?
Having Terry McAulay on the Browns call is always an interesting choice to me since he was the Bottlegate guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he's a part of their broadcast team, but I think he also was a part of the CBS broadcast team. It's just always interesting to me that they would even mention that man's name.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't got much more to expand on, but and one final note, Joe Hayden signed a 1-day contract to retire with the Cleveland Browns this past week, which was extra sweet the week of the Browns-Steelers game because most Cleveland fans were devastated when they released him and he ended up signing with the Steelers.
I was devastated. Yeah.
Diminishing skills.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
I think a lot of Steelers fans were miffed about that. It's the timing of it and everything.
Oh yeah,
just that he wanted to retire.
I wonder.
Brown.
It makes me wonder behind the scenes if he reached out to Pittsburgh to retire a Steeler and they said no, and he was like, fine.
I mean, it just makes me happy that they just can't accept the fact that like someone doesn't want them. Like,
wow,
didn't want to be a Steeler.
That's true too. That's true
I'd
too.
rather be a Brown. He did spend 7 years here, though.
He did, and we were the team that drafted him. So,
and he has a shoe store in Cleveland. Does he still have it, or did he close it down?
I don't think it's still there. We'll have to check on that one.
Check on that one.
All right, so that brings us to a new segment this week. This is the Burning River Sportscast Dog of the Week.
I'm a dog now, though. Who let the dogs out? Dog mentality. Come on now. I'm coming in and kill right away.
So you may be asking yourself, why didn't they talk about David Njoku with the offense this week? Well, it's because
he sucks.
No.
Oh.
It's because he is this week's Burning River Sportscast Dog of the Week.
Wow, that was a good bark, man.
Oh, I'm a dog.
That was almost as good as the sounder.
I'm a dog. So he had 9 catches, 89 yards, and a touchdown. Most of those catches were contested. People draped all over him. I mean, he came to play this week.
Yeah. I mean, if you look through my game notes, it's like 4 targets, 4 catches. And then the next note is 5 targets, 5 catches, 6 targets, 6. Like, they went to him a ton, and he caught everything in sight.
The only one that he missed on the night, he got completely chopped on as he was catching the ball.
Jacoby didn't really do him a lot of favors.
No, he threw it a little high. He kind of missed. I mean, it was there, but it was a little high to where he had to reach up, and then the Steelers defender came in and completely chopped him. And I don't care who you are, that's a hard catch to make.
Yeah, really hard catch. But outside of that, I mean, 9 catches, 89 yards, doing work. I mean, I think that was a career day for him.
Yep. So again, David Njoku, this week's Dog of the Week.
But we need to see a lot more of that out of him.
We do need
especially as we work into
we paid him a lot of money.
Especially as we work into the tougher part of the schedule. We're going to need him to show up like that every week. And
absolutely.
The thing is, he has the potential to do it. He has the athleticism to do it. That's why it's been so frustrating with him, because we know that that's out there.
If this is the David Njoku we get, though, I mean, I'm all about them paying him that money.
Fantasy stud.
Oh, yeah. So let's go ahead and get into the division roundup. So around the division, we have the Ravens beating New England, 37-26. Lamar Jackson had a huge game this week. I think he had, 5 touchdowns? What did he have? A lot.
I think he had. Did he have 4 and did he rush for 1 again?
I think that's what it was, yeah.
Super,
it was a lot. He played very well.
Just an impressive effort all around from Lamar. And I think we're starting to see that this New England team...
Not as good as advertised.
Not that great.
Well, and they're about to hit another skid here
Just
because...
very average.
Yeah, they're about to be even worse. Mac Jones got injured in that game. And
towards the end of the game.
Diagnosed with a high ankle sprain. And if you've listened to football at all, it's called the dreaded high ankle sprain for a reason, because it's one of those injuries that it definitely is going to take him out a few weeks, and then it just seems to linger.
Sticks with you.
Yep.
Like, genital warts.
Oh, that's bad. So he's definitely going to be out a few weeks. Ronnie and Kenny both got that game right, though.
Are you speaking in third person now?
Kenny and myself, I'm reading notes. It's bad. So Kenny and myself both got that right. Cincinnati and the Jets. Cincy finally gets on track because the Jets are trash.
Yeah, I saw somebody write an article that was like, Cincy is...
they're back.
Like, yeah, like you guys beat the Jets, and I know we lost to the Jets, and that was an inexcusable loss.
If anybody watched the Browns versus the Jets, they know the Jets shouldn't have won.
But the Jets are just trash. The plain and
Jets
simple.
are trash. We'll double, triple, quadruple, send whatever.
We're going down on the Jets.
No, we're not. But the Jets are trash. And they'll continue to be trash.
Doubling down on the Jets.
Yeah, but we're not going down on the Jets. Both Kenny and myself got that one right as well. So let's go ahead and take a trip around the NFL.
Better week for the AFC North.
It was a better week for the AFC.
Everybody won except for the Steelers. So
the best week.
The best week for the AFC.
So around the rest of the NFL, Jacksonville. They just stomped the Chargers this week, 38-10. Where the hell did that come from?
I don't know.
I have no words for that. I just put 38-10, and it's all question marks, and I'm just confused.
That's fair.
The Jets are trash, in case we didn't mention that.
Yeah, they're really bad.
The Packers edged Tampa Bay in a defensive battle.
Yeah, the battle of the aging quarterbacks there.
What was that game?
Boring game.
Oh, it was a defensive battle. It was about as even as it could be throughout the whole game. The Packers led most of it, but not by a lot. It was like 14-3 or 14-0 or whatever the score was. But
Did you see, Aaron Rodgers is saying that like the Jumbotron tipped him off. Like that's how they won the game. Like the Tampa Bay Jumbotron was goofy or something. They showed the offsides on the play before that. They were or the play clock. Sorry, the play clock went to 0, and he was like, "Hey guys, you're just letting Tom Brady just have extra seconds." So then when it happened on the very next play, then they call him. Yeah.
Well. Brady did orchestrate a drive at the end of the game. They scored with 14 seconds left and had a chance to tie it up, but they could not convert the 2-point conversion.
Because they had to move the ball back to the delay a game.
Feels bad. One note from that game, there were no broken tablets from Tom Brady after he broke 3 the week before. And in case anyone wasn't following that, it led to the NFL sending a memo everywhere saying, if you break tablets, we're going to discipline you.
Yeah, don't break tablets. I mean,
why is that a good look?
Who are we kidding? I love when they break the tablet.
It is. I like when they headbutt it. The Bills lose to Miami in a close one. I did not see that coming. Apparently, Miami's the real deal.
Yeah, Miami looks good. They look really good. I still am not sure about Tua. Maybe
more accurate than Patrick Mahomes. Been saying it all year. I heard it from Tyreek Hill.
But yeah, did you hear Tyreek Hill after the game? They were talking about who he was playing next week, and he was like, "Oh, we play on Thursday for real? That's cool."
That's a guy that's really in his playbook. But what happened in that game, it was close all the way down. It came down to the wire, and the clock ran out before the Bills could get their final playoff. And the Bills' offensive coordinator was fired up and going nuts up in the box.
More broken tablets?
There was another broken tablet. Right after they sent out the memo, this guy goes and just breaking tablets on TV.
Need more tablets.
Need more
and
tablets.
More memos, apparently. Josh Allen throws for 400 in that game.
He's a stud.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that you're not a huge fan of Josh Allen and the Bills in general, but he's a stud. That's why they're my Super Bowl pick.
It's an all-American city.
Colts beat the Chiefs, apparently.
Yeah, that was another one I just have question marks on.
Yeah, I don't have much to say, but they did it.
I mean, listless the Colts have looked, and Matt Ryan is just getting beat up all over the place. And that one almost put me in the urgent care again. Like, I almost had to go back.
Oops. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. Las Vegas. The Raiders are the only team left without a win, and it looks like the Josh McDaniels era may be over sooner than anyone thought.
Yeah. And
how's this dude keep getting head coaching jobs?
And they have talent on that roster.
They do. Josh McDaniels, though, have you noticed, like, every 3 or 4 years, Josh McDaniels gets a head coaching job? He does absolutely god-awful, and then he goes back to being a Patriots assistant for a few years until everyone's talking about him again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people want him here every time he's available.
Why?
I don't know.
Why?
I don't know. I don't like the guy.
That's it. Josh McDaniels, you're trash.
I think he doesn't he have some kind of Northeast Ohio root?
I don't know. Josh McDaniels is trash.
Josh McDaniels is trash.
Add him to the list.
Add him to the trash list.
The Jets, the Steelers, and Josh McDaniels, they're all trash. F them all.
F them all.
And then final note around the league. Bye-bye Pro Bowl. See you later.
Yeah, so replacing the Pro Bowl with
the Pro Bowl games.
Multi-day. The Hunger Games!
No, it's the Pro Bowl games.
Oh, that would be better, though. Like, 10 men enter, 1 man leaves.
This is how we trim the fat in the NFL. We just have all these guys go in, and you are the worst quarterbacks in the league. Whoever ends up losing, you're just cut. You're done. Never allowed to play in the NFL again.
Hunger Games. So a multi-day skills competition.
Which I actually am a fan of. I like the skills competitions.
Flag football.
Flag football, not a fan of. Nobody's a fan of that.
What?
Why are we even having the game?
So, like, when Joe Thomas goes to 10 Pro Bowls now, he just sits on the sidelines? Like,
yeah, what are we, 7-on-7?
I mean, you can't put him out there, right? I mean,
no.
They're just going to stand there and look at each other.
Hey, what's up?
You want to block me? All right.
Nah, don't block me.
Don't block me. I got to tackle this guy.
That defensive lineman took my flag. Like, I just don't understand. The Pro Bowl, by the way, started in 1951. So it's been around a long time, and we're just replacing it with flag football now.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like, it's overdue for them to do something about it because no one watches it.
Stale
and
for
it's
years.
Trash because no one wants to play and put the effort into it because you don't want to risk an injury.
I think the worst thing that they did for the Pro Bowl in recent years was switching it from after the Super Bowl to the week between the championship games and the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
because now anybody that's in the Super Bowl, they're not playing in it.
Well, and most of the Super Bowl teams weren't playing in it anyway, but I just also think from a timing standpoint, like, once the Super Bowl's over...
What's your first thought? Oh, no, football's over.
Football's over. Like, it was like my last chance to hang on to football season.
I agree. And even though the numbers were declining before they made the change, they were much better when it was after the Super Bowl than they are now.
Well, and you moved it from Hawaii to Orlando and Las Vegas or wherever it is.
Orlando's cool.
And
I lived there. Orlando is not that cool.
And Orlando had really bad weather when it was there. It was like 45 degrees and rain.
I thought hurricane season was over.
At least, like, Hawaii was a trip for those guys.
Right. Like, let's pack up the family and go to Orlando.
Yeah, no, I mean, Disney's there.
There, but I mean, besides that, what are they going to do? Those guys are rich. They don't care about Disney.
Real quick before we finish the NFL segment, I saw the Eagles put up 24 points in the second quarter on the Commanders, and someone was tweeting out that the Commanders are worse than the Redskins.
Oh, man. Commanders, another trash team, in case anyone was wondering. We'll add them to the list. Steelers, Jets, Commanders, Josh McDaniels, all trash.
Trash.
F them all.
F them all.
All right, so that'll do it for our Week 3 coverage.
That's an official show stand. F them all.
Let's go ahead and take a revenue break before we get into Week 4. Towpath Distillery. Towpath Distillery, the newest craft distillery in Northeast Ohio, located in Akron and family-owned. Towpath Distillery focuses on high-quality spirits carefully made in small batches. Towpath's lineup includes an ultra-smooth, award-winning premium vodka, a small batch silver rum made from the highest-grade molasses, an American craft gin made with 9 botanicals, and a blended straight bourbon made from corn and rye. Towpath Distillery. Visit towpath-distillery.com to find an agency near you where the spirits are available, and make sure to ask your local bartender and restaurateur. Towpath Distillery. Handcrafted, small batch, local, and family-owned.
That was so sultry. I really want some Towpath.
I always want Towpath. I'm not an alcoholic.
This is brought to you by alcoholics.
It's not.
No, Towpath, get some.
Get some. All right, so let's jump into the Week 3 preview here. We'll start with some matchup previews. Are there any, before I get to my matchups, are there any matchups that you want to talk about in this game? You weren't ready for that one.
Sorry, no, I thought we were gonna recap the Falcons and kind of where they were this week because they had the Battle of the Birds.
Woo.
Geno Smith came to town. Or, well, I guess they went to town. They went to Seattle.
They went to town.
I don't know.
You can go ahead and recap that. That's fine.
So,
I like when I randomly toss it to you and you have no idea what to do. We have an outline for the show, and I just go off script, and you're just dumbfounded.
I wasn't ready for that. So anyway, Falcons Seahawks this weekend. Falcons get on the board with their first win of the year
against a outstanding Seattle team. They're just so good over there.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to break down the Seahawks today, but they're not very good. And I think Geno Smith threw for 325 yards, 2 touchdowns. There's a lot of holes in that secondary. So hopefully that's something that will bode well for the Browns this week. But I think as it relates to the Falcons and this week's matchup, this is all about what the Falcons can do on offense. Because I think they're just a very middling NFL team right now.
They're not great.
They're not great. They have a lot of young players and
I wouldn't go
some talent.
They're on the border. I was going to say I wouldn't go so far as to add them to the category with the Steelers, Jets.
No, they're not trash yet.
Yet.
But they're trash adjacent.
Is that an official category of teams? Trash adjacent.
And I think it starts with the quarterback, and golly, that quarterback room has to be one of the worst in the NFL, in NFL history.
Well,
look at this depth chart. Marcus Mariota is your starter. He's trash. Is the backup is Desmond Ridder and Felipe Franks.
Just real just household names there.
yeah. Felipe Franks sounds like a hot dog restaurant.
Ooh, nice. Let me just go on down to Felipe Franks. Get myself a hot dog.
But all kidding aside, right? I mean, Mariota has seen a good deal of football. He's been in the league for a minute, so there is a little bit of veteran.
He's been in the league for a minute and still done nothing. But there's some veteran presence there, if nothing else. He's seen a lot of football, but just not great. He has some mobility. His arm's not the strongest. Decision making isn't great. Has turned the ball over quite a bit already. But what they do have going for them is Kyle Pitts at the tight end slot. Nice.
Big athletic guy. There was emphasis on getting him the ball this week. He hasn't had the start to the season that they had hoped. They get 8 targets, 5 catches, 87 yards. And I think what the Browns have to watch out for there is just the give him a chance ball. He's very good at just going up for that jump ball scenario and coming down with it.
And that's a great segue, by the way, because that was one of my matchups, was Kyle Pitts in the Falcons tight ends versus the Browns secondary.
There you go.
So, Kyle, as you said, Kyle Pitts finally had a good game.
If I had a segue, I would ride it around the studio.
Kyle Pitts had a good game last week. I'm just leaving that one alone. Kyle Pitts had a good game last week. His name's Pitts, by the way. That's terrible.
Pitts.
Name.
Yeah, that's
that guy. That's
trash. It's a trash name.
That's just the Pitts.
It's the Pitts.
But he was their leading receiver last week and finally got on track. Slow start to the season, so he finally got on track last week. But it was against a bad team. But the Browns secondary hasn't been great so far. Besides the Steelers game, and the Steelers weren't a very good, measuring stick. So that was one of my matchups. Was can we stop them? We've been particularly bad against tight ends, just kind of letting them run free.
Yeah,
so.
that's fair. And I think what's more worrisome there from a Browns point of view is that Kyle Pitts is the type of athlete that can work outside and inside. And with the injuries to the linebacking core, there could be some big gaps there.
Yeah. One of my other matchups here, the Browns front seven versus the Falcons running backs. Cordarrell Patterson. Am I saying that right? He's got
I never know how to say his name.
Cordarrell,
and because
Corduroy. Who knows?
I've seen it like misspelled, like spelled differently.
I think it's Cordarrell
on ESPN and on Madden.
Yeah, Cordarrell Patterson though he had a big game last week. 141 yards on just 17 carries. That's solid. And his season stats are now up to 49 carries for 302 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he's probably one of the few bright spots on that team.
Cordarrell Patterson is one of the most intriguing stories.
Didn't he come in as a receiver?
I think in the NFL. Yeah, I mean, a guy that was a kick returner, punt returner, receiver, and kind
bounced
of
around the league a little bit
for himself, returning kicks. Did bounce around for a little bit, and found a home strangely as a running back in like year 8 or 9. I mean, he's in his 10th year now, and he is literally second in the NFL in rushing behind just Nick Chubb.
Yep. So, I mean, that's why I put it on here. Are we able to contain him, especially because we're down our defensive captain and possibly others, which we'll get into the injury report here in a minute. But if we can't stop the run, it's going to be a long day for us.
When I think the thing that makes him so dangerous is because he was a wide receiver by trade. So, like, his background is being able to catch the ball, so he can not only tote the rock, he can catch it too. So he's
shifty. He's got some moves.
Dual threat,
yeah.
And he is fast. So probably the biggest weapon they have, now that Calvin Ridley is in casino purgatory or whatever he's in, DraftKings jail.
Yeah. So definitely a matchup for me to watch, though. In my opinion, simply because if you can't stop their running backs, I mean, we're going to have a long day. A long day.
Well, I don't know. Their other running backs scare me. Tyler.
Well, when I say
their
they're running backs, I mean Cordarrell Patterson. If you can't stop him, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, and he can have a really big day. He's capable of putting up a lot of points and a lot of yards. Assuming Marcus Mariota can get him the ball.
So speaking of Marcus Mariota, he's been very subpar this year. Kenny called him trash. He actually has a higher rating so far this year than the last quarterback we played at 85.4. But he's turned the ball over 6 times in 3 games. He has 3 interceptions and 3 fumbles, and he's been sacked 6 times. So that's all bad. Really bad.
Not good at all. So
trash.
He's trash. Mariota's trash. Kyle Pitts is good. Cordarrell Patterson is good. I think the other bright spot on their offense is Drake London, 8th overall pick in the draft, 6'4", 213. Good frame, was a basketball player. So I think high pointing the ball, body position, those are just things that come natural to him. Had an okay game this week. And I think they're looking to get him more involved in the offense. So I think, he's one of those, probably my player to watch. Are we at that point in the show?
You can throw them out
where I
there.
can give
I'll touch on mine
my
later.
player to
It's
watch.
down at the bottom of this, but
Drake London, because there's somebody, they have to have somebody to complement Kyle Pitts in that passing game, and Calvin Ridley's not there. So outside of Cordarrell Patterson,
finish that thought.
outside of Cordarrell, he's the next biggest weapon, I think. So, and I do think that they're trying to get him involved. So I do think he'll have a big week.
So your impact player is Drake London.
That's right.
And
can I add a second impact player? Is that allowed?
Is Drake London your impact players, or like Najee Harris for me last week? It wasn't really an impact player; it was just a player to watch, because if we shut him down, we were going to win.
Well, I think if you shut down Cordarrell
Cordarrell, we don't even know his name.
Cordarrell Patterson. the second impact player so my impact player for the game is Drake London, but
who's your second?
Second,
spit it out.
Our old pal, Cordarrell Hodge.
That's why you were getting confused.
Yeah. So I think, big revenge game for him coming back to play the Browns.
So much revenge.
That's all.
So you got Drake London and Cordarrell Hodge as your players to watch, and we're officially adding Marcus Mariota to the trash bin.
Trash bin. Pile it on.
So we got the Jets, the Steelers, the Commanders, Josh McDaniels, and Marcus Mariota, all in the trash bin.
In La Basura, I
got
think, as they would say in
very nice.
My old Spanish class.
Very nice. So the defense for the Falcons, they've been basically average thus far. I think a little bit worse than average. I think they're middle to middle back end on most of the major stat categories. Not doing anything particularly well. And yeah, I mean, the one thing I do notice is they're susceptible against the pass. So
yeah, holes in that secondary. I think.
Geno Smith passed for 300 and some yards on him.
Grady Jarrett is someone to watch on that front, and Richie Grant had the INT to kind of ice the game in the Battle of the Birds this weekend. But that secondary is young. It's really young. I think. Who is it? Casey Hayward is like the lone veteran in that group. The other three starters.
By the way, if you look at their roster,
man, just like
unless you're a Falcons fan and you take it upon yourself to learn these names, it's just a hodgepodge Frankenstein of a team.
It's a Cordarrell hodgepodge Frankenstein of a team. There's just not a lot of household names like they have in their quarterback room.
There's three right there, but on the rest of the team, they've got none.
But that secondary is really, really young. I think 3 out of the 4 starters were drafted in 2020 or later. So just a lot of youth there.
What was the Robert Saleh quote? Ridiculously young.
Ridiculously young and trash.
Their secondary's trash. Officially out of the trash bin. I don't think they are, because they've got potential at least, but...
Yeah, they're just young. They're young, and I think if you listen to like Atlanta radio and what people are saying that are Falcons fans, this year there weren't a lot of expectations. This was thought to be a gap year, a group that's growing and getting better. And Mariota as your starter just doesn't exude a lot of confidence. So I don't think that there are any delusions of grandeur that they're going to accomplish much this year. But
no, he was kind of a last second. Oh, Matty Ice is gone.
They thought they were getting Deshaun.
Yeah, well, we had news for them.
Real quick before we move on, did you see in the Battle of the Birds?
So many Battle of the Birds references. It's not cool. Stop trying to make that work.
I think it's gonna work. In the Battle of the Birds, there was a delay of game that wasn't a penalty.
All right.
There was a drone on the field. It was
this is the world we've come to.
It was a rogue drone, officially. Like that was what they said. There was
the future.
There was a college football game the day before at Lumen Stadium, and there was some kind of drone show. And something happened to the athletic department's drone, and it became disconnected from their drone network. I think like Washington State football, I want to say is whose it was, got disconnected and just rogue went off, started flying over the field. So they made the players go stand on the sideline because they were
Everybody get it down.
we don't know what's happening. There's a rogue drone. It stopped the game for almost 10 minutes.
A fun fact, I think it's Washington State. Almost every school in Washington, every college, uses the initials of the school to come up with their logo. So just fun fact.
Kind of like Tappan Media.
Yeah, in case TIM. You guys get it?
You can see it.
So for the Falcons, though, to wrap up our preview of the game, they have a 1-2 record. The Browns need to continue to play well on defense. Need to continue to just own the clock and run the ball well.
Yeah, I don't think a lot changes here in terms of game plan. It's play ball management, run the ball, be efficient in the passing game, and play good defense.
And the Falcons have given up some sacks and turned the ball over a lot this year, so hopefully we're able to capitalize on that.
Yeah, Mariota should do his thing.
And on paper, the Browns are just the better team. Let's be real.
Yeah, it's a game that you should win.
Don't get too deep into this again.
It's not the same.
Don't get too deep into this again.
It's not the same kind of confidence you have when you're playing a trash team like the Jets, but it's a game where on paper you're the better football team. And you have to have this one because your schedule is going to get a lot tougher very soon.
If we lose this week, you're no longer allowed to say that the Browns should win a game.
They should win this game. Now, this won't be the same letdown if they were to lose this game as there was to the Jets because they're not as bad as the Jets. But they should win this game. If you did a simulation model, the Browns should win this game more often than they would lose.
I'm not expanding on that at all. I'm not touching it. That's your fault.
Be done.
All right, let's get into the injury report. This will help. This will kind of shape the game, I think, because there actually are some big names on the Browns injury report this week. I'm only touching on the Browns. I'm not talking about the Falcons. I don't care who's injured for the Falcons.
You want to touch on the Browns?
Here we go. I'm only speaking to the Browns injury report, not the Falcons. Clowney, he sat versus the Steelers, but I think he's looking to return this week, if I'm not mistaken, from what I saw. TBD. So no official word on that. Anthony Walker, we talked about it earlier. He's got a torn quadriceps tendon and is done for the season.
Feels bad.
Big loss for us. Big loss. JOK, he also came out of that last game with a groin injury and did not return.
Not good when you have a guy that you rely on for speed to have a groin injury this early in the year.
And I'm feeling like, those soft tissue injuries, he's probably not coming back from that right away.
No.
Yeah, I would assume he's out this week. But I don't think they've officially ruled him out, so I would just assume
Well,
he's
a lot
out
of guys try to play with a groin injury.
It's not fun.
You're just not as effective.
It's not fun. Taven Bryan, hamstring injury in that game, also did not return.
Getting banged up out there.
Yeah. And then Myles Garrett, this is a big name just as of today. Literally, this is Monday that we're recording the podcast. It comes out on Thursdays. But this is Monday that we're recording, and right before we started recording, it was reported Myles Garrett was involved in a one vehicle car accident, and it looked bad, like really bad. His Porsche was destroyed.
Yeah, well,
that Porsche has issues.
And I guess I don't even know if we truly saw. I mean, we saw some things on Twitter beforehand, so they may not have even been accurate, but because it literally just happened before we started filming. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, what they're saying on Twitter was basically, like I said, the car looked terrible. He was transported to the hospital with minor injuries, is what they were calling it. But, I mean, I think it's too early to confirm whether or not those are legit or not.
I mean, here's the thing. If you got into a car accident and had a minor injury, what would that be?
A broken arm.
You could have a broken arm, right? I mean, you're talking about a car accident. So hopefully it's some bruises and some scrapes, but a minor injury could be something bad.
In football
terms of football, yeah.
Yeah, so no word on if he plays this week. We're just going to go ahead and assume he's out for at least a week. If he plays this week, that's kind of a miracle, but I'm hoping it's not something serious enough to keep him out longer.
The weather was bad today. I mean, it was rainy,
windy.
Really, really rainy and windy, and high-end sports cars in that type of weather, just not a great combo.
So this brings us to our players to watch segment. You already mentioned yours. You had Cordarrell Hodge, and you had
Cordarrell Hodge. Drake London is
Drake
my
London.
player to watch.
Mine was Myles Garrett.
Okay. I mean, go out on a limb there.
Just because he had such a quiet game against the Steelers, and I was hoping that he bounced back. I've been saying all season I think he was going to have a record-breaking year and be the defensive MVP this year, Defensive Player of the Year, and I don't think he's going to play this week now. So
He may not.
I'm going to have to scramble here. My player to watch now.
Cordarrell Hodge.
No,
Oh.
absolutely not. I'm actually going to go with. I'm going to go with.
You're just making this up on the spot.
I am. This is tough. Should I go with the obvious? Nick Chubb. No, I'm actually going to go with Jacoby Brissett, which it doesn't. I mean, he's played very consistently this season. Historically, he hasn't played consistently though, so I'm looking to see if he's able to continue that, keep playing well.
You think the drop off is coming?
I don't know. There is a tough stretch coming. I hope he has at least one more solid game before we get into this tough part of the schedule. So I'm gonna go with Jacoby.
Fair enough.
And again, I had to scramble, so that not my fault there.
Like Bernie Kosar,
Yeah.
learning to scramble.
You got to scramble.
Also, not endorsing our podcast, but
No.
he should because
Bernie.
call us.
Yeah. You know what it's time for?
It's almost dinner time.
No. King of the North.
King of the North.
All right, so let's
Everyone's favorite game.
let's remind them of the tally thus far. This week,
let's remind me of the tally this far.
this week I went 3-0. I picked all the games correctly. Kenny, did you?
I picked the Browns to lose to the Steelers.
What an idiot! We're a Browns podcast. We're a Cleveland sports podcast, and you picked the Browns to lose to the Steelers.
Look, here's the thing.
What an idiot!
I didn't know how bad the Steelers were until I saw it
I'm ashamed to call you my co-host.
in person in prime time.
What an idiot! So I'm 7-3. Kenny is 4-6. Just bringing up the rear. So let's just go ahead and get into the AFC North predictions this week. The Bills are at the Ravens. Who do you got?
We're going to me.
I'm going to you.
Did you rate Baltimore beat Mew England like the notorious Pokemon?
I am getting autocorrected. It's not my fault. Why would they autocorrect new to Mew? Because that's a more commonly used word.
Super common. Sorry, now I need to gather myself.
Who do you got? Baltimore against the Bills.
Yeah, this is actually probably the premier game of the week, actually.
I would say so.
This is going to be a huge matchup. The Bills coming off a tough loss, a close loss in Miami. Baltimore beating Mew England.
Come on.
Here's the thing. I think both teams are really good. They have a lot going for them on offense and on defense. Good coaching. Just a real premier matchup. But what I will say is this. Lamar Jackson doesn't have that contract yet. And
Playing for his life out there.
he is first in the NFL in passing touchdowns, first in the NFL in quarterback rating, and fourth in the NFL in rushing yardage. That's not quarterbacks. Fourth in the NFL in rushing yardage.
He's no Nick Chubb.
No, he's just behind.
He's not even a running back.
Not even a running back. So I'm going Baltimore.
Whoa.
I wish I could pick the Bills to win because
You hate the Bills. Don't act like you wish you could pick the Bills to win.
Well, we need the Ravens to lose in this division. So
Good news, we play Atlanta.
I think the Ravens win this one.
All right. Well, I got, like you said, Baltimore did beat Mew England. The Bills lost a close one to Miami, which was pretty surprising to me. I did not see that coming. But I think that speaks more to how good Miami actually is this year than how bad the Bills must have played to let Miami win. Because watching the game, it didn't seem like they played very poorly. So I think this is a very, very close game all the way throughout. There's probably going to be several lead changes. It's going to come down to the wire, but I've got the Bills winning it. And you mentioned it's probably the premier game of the week. I'm surprised they didn't flex this into prime time, but it's just 1:00 on Sunday.
Too early in the season to flex the matchup. But
Yeah.
I do think there's going to be a ton of points scored in this game.
So we're split on that one. I've got the Bills. You've got the Ravens.
Unfortunately, yes.
Miami at Cincinnati. What do you got? You want me to go first?
I'm officially buying into like Cincinnati's not that good because
We said it to start the year. They
think
were everybody. They got hot at the right time last year, and everybody thinks they're a great team now.
I think they struggled a bit with the Jets. Obviously,
What they get into the playoffs last year?
obviously
One game over 500. They're not.
The past is past. The future's now. But
There it is.
Here's the deal. I don't think Cincinnati is that good. I think that offensive line is still poor, even though they've tried to upgrade there. And I just think they are yet to recapture that same magic of last year. And I do think that Miami is good. I think Miami is for real.
Yeah,
They're beating,
I would agree.
They're beating good teams now.
Yeah.
Tua's,
Everybody was sleeping on Miami, but they're legit.
Tua's looked good. Tyreek's been a huge addition. Jalen Waddle is a tremendous athlete. That defense is stout. So I go Miami over Cincinnati this week.
Yeah, and I'll take all suspense out of it. I'm going to agree with you on this. The Bengals have lost to some bad teams and bad quarterbacks this year. It still seems like they're trying to find their identity, which is weird for a team that's coming off of a Super Bowl appearance, but it seems like 3 games in and they're still trying to find their identity this year.
I can tell you the whole city of Cincinnati kind of feels like it needs an identity. I was there once, and it's just for a place that's in Ohio, I kind of wish it wasn't.
Strong words about our brothers to the south. He just took a shot at the entire city, not just the football team that we hate because we're Browns fans. He just took a shot at the entire city. Everybody talks about Cleveland being the armpit of America.
Oh, no, it's Cincinnati for sure.
There it is.
There's nothing good
There it is. And on the flip side of this one, though, we got Miami's undefeated. Tua has them playing great football, and I think Miami wins this one. I actually think they win pretty easy, probably a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, I agreed.
Finally, we got the Jets at the Steelers.
Oh, my goodness, the trash game of the week.
Is this the official dumpster fire?
This is the toilet bowl.
Oh, man. Who do you got coming out on top?
I'm struggling with this one.
I'm not.
I wrote down an answer, and now I'm like, I can't. I'm not sure.
You wrote down the Jets are trash, and then you added the Steelers to the trash bin, and now you don't know what to do.
Yeah. Here's what I
watched
do
the
know.
Brown Steelers game last week, and you're like, they're way worse than I thought.
This game is going to devolve into missed. Dropped passes, missed kicks.
Who
poor
can turn it over the
defense.
least?
Who can turn it over the least? It's gonna be ugly. Jets win just because they're trash.
Whoa!
This is the only other win the Jets get all year, just because the Steelers
Oh
are so
no! Oh no!
bad. That offense is bad, man. That Steelers offense is bad.
Here's the deal: the Jets are trash. The Steelers are trash. But Mike Tomlin's still a good coach, so that's my deciding factor, and I've got the Steelers winning this one. The Jets continue to be just the bottom feeders of the NFL.
Robert Saleh is keeping receipts on you, bro.
Mail them to me. So we got the Browns and Falcons to round this out here. I'll go ahead and go first on this. I made you give your prediction first all the way through so far. So I've got
You ain't first, you're last.
True. Falcons have played some subpar teams this year, and they just barely beat the Seahawks last week with Geno Smith. They also lost to the Saints with Jameis in just an abysmal offense. The Browns, they do need to continue to play well on defense and continue to control that clock like we mentioned earlier, but I think they do that pretty easily. I have the Browns winning, and it's not particularly close. I have it 21-10.
Yeah, I think we covered the matchup pretty extensively in the preview. I think the Browns continue to do what they've done to this point: play ball control offense, run the ball, not turn it over, and do just enough on defense. I think they're better than the Falcons on paper. Browns win. I think. Let's go 27-17.
Nice. So we got Bills. Just to recap, Bills and Ravens were split. Miami at Cincinnati. We both have Miami. Jets and Steelers were split. and we both have the Browns.
Yeah, truthfully, I think if nothing else, just the fact that the Browns know they have to win because they know there's some Bears on that schedule coming up.
Yeah, we really got to start thinking about what our bet's going to be because you're going to be really sad when you have to do it.
I'm launching a comeback. It starts this week.
If I wanted some comeback, I'd...
Nope.
All right, let's go ahead and take a revenue break. Towpath bourbon, made from corn, barley, and just the right amount of rye. This blended straight bourbon whiskey is designed for the real bourbon lover. Intense notes of maple, cinnamon, vanilla, and oats hit you up front. Rich and intense, yet balanced all the way through with a strong and lingering finish. Great by itself, on the rocks, or the perfect spirit for a delicious Manhattan or old-fashioned. Towpath bourbon. This is actually my favorite drink from them, by the way. I drink it neat. There's no other way to drink bourbon. If you drink it differently, you're wrong.
I love a good old-fashioned.
I don't think you do. I've never seen you order an old-fashioned.
When's the last time you even went out to eat with me?
Fair. I don't like you. I try and hang out with you as little as possible. All right, so let's get into it. For the land.
Yeah, let's talk about those guards.
Oh, you got to let it breathe.
Oh.
For the land. Yeah, let's talk about those guards.
AL Central champions, baby.
They've just been dominating. The last, in case you guys don't remember, last week when we recorded, their magic number was at 12. Well, let's go ahead and fast forward 6 days to Sunday, yesterday. We're recording on Monday. They've officially clinched. The magic number went from 12 to 0 in 6 days. They beat up on the White Sox. They beat up on the Twins over the last 2 weeks. Went 10-2 over 15 days against the Twins and the White Sox, who are behind them in the division.
I don't even know how that math works, but here's what I can tell you. They won 18 of the last 21 games, and that's the only number I need to know because they have just been on an absolute tear. And it's just cool to see.
Yeah, so the Guardians are playoff bound, and they kept the receipts. You talked about Robert Saleh keeping receipts on me, but the Guardians kept the receipts. Their official social media had a lot of fun with the haters. They just kept putting out tweets just kind of citing everything that everybody said because at the beginning of the season, nobody thought the Guardians had a chance.
Yeah, I mean, they had them finishing last in the division. White Sox winning 90-plus games.
Multiple analysts put the Guardians at 0% chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, the expectations...
Like, how's that even possible? Like, if you just play the game, you at least have a % chance to make the playoffs. They put them at 0% chance.
I mean, they had the Guardians penciled in for, like, 74 wins.
Yeah, it was bad. But if they keep playing like they are now, the youngest team in baseball is going to make some serious noise in October.
It's just, and it's fun because the expectations were so low. It was they're too young. There's not enough money spent. The Dolans suck, and all those things could be true. But like here they are, like they're doing it in a way that is so. Different from kind of where baseball is right now, where everybody
we
just
ain't New York, we ain't LA.
Well, and they just the strategy seems to be like sell out for home runs, right? Like you get big power hitters,
play a lot of small ball,
and we are a team that prides itself on its base running and pitching, and they're contact hitters.
Yeah,
they're like a good high school.
Well,
team
we've talked about it in a past show. Like that front office knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's really showing now. Like we said, the youngest team in baseball. And those guys, if you see them on camera talking about each other and interacting with each other, it's just a special team. I think it's one of those teams that comes together. It reminds me of, like in basketball, like the Detroit Pistons of the early 2000s before any of those guys became big names. They just loved each other and played together.
Yeah, I mean... So somewhere in that lineup, there's people that are going to get traded in a couple of years, and we're going to be really sad about it.
We're going to be sad, but we're going to get a huge haul, and we're going to come back just as good.
Oh yeah. But I'm just saying, like they're not household names yet, but they will be.
Yep. Stephen Kwan.
He already kind of getting there. I mean, at least in Cleveland,
he's breaking just about every Cleveland rookie record there is, besides some of the base stealing ones. But
real impressive season.
Jose Ramirez is Jose Ramirez, so
it's just funny too because you like even now any one of those guys could walk into your living room and you'd be like, "Who are you?"
Yeah. So here, the real
Outside of,
question
like,
though
Jose.
is Jose Ramirez the Nick Chubb of the Guardians? Like he just shows up, does his job, and doesn't really say much, and he's just like, I'm Jose Ramirez.
I don't know, man. I mean, look, I love Jose, but Nick Chubb is just so good. Like
I think we can agree on
Nick
this.
Chubb
then.
can take over a game by himself.
That's true. Jose Ramirez has this season though. But anyways, I think what we can agree on as far as Jose Ramirez goes,
We
don't deserve Jose Ramirez. Nobody does.
Nobody does.
All right, so the Cavs, we've still got Donovan Mitchell.
Smashing-
We've still got him.
Smashing guitars.
Oh man, we've also got multiple other stars, rising stars, people. Same thing like you said before, people that aren't household names yet but will be.
Thank goodness October is here so we can start talking about the Cavs.
I know they got to start playing some games and then we can get excited.
Every Cavs update is
Still got
Donovan
him.
Mitchell, yeah.
No, but the future is bright for all of Cleveland sports. We've got young teams that are competing, that are good, and they're just doing big things
It's
out
a
there.
good
You know what I'm
time to
saying?
be a Clevelander.
They out here.
They out here.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the closing. Kenny, what can we expect next week?
What can we expect next week? Red Hot Ronnie Jams. I'll tell you what you can expect next week. Come on down
I'm here.
to the Burning River Sportscast presented by Tap In Media. I can tell you that we are going to recap the Browns at Falcons victory. Question mark?
Gosh, why do you always try and
question-
jinx everything?
Question mark. And then we will give a solid preview of the Browns Chargers game, which will be the first real
Test.
big test of the year. And fortunately for the Browns, maybe Justin Herbert dinged up right now, some rib issues. So might be another thing working in the Cleveland Browns' favor early in the season, but
We'll see.
we will see.
So you're telling me we can expect the same thing we expect every week.
Same thing we do every day, Pinky.
Try to take
Take
over
over
the
the
world.
world.
Yep. Check out our social media pages, Tap In Media. They're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at the Tap In Media, except for on Instagram, it's Tap In Media Official.
Official.
And then absolutely check out the Burning River Sportscast. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Burning River Sportscast, except for Twitter, at Burning River Pod. And then on YouTube, we are also Burning River Sportscast. We started putting out our video episodes for anybody that, for whatever reason, doesn't like to listen to a podcast and instead likes to watch this boring-ass
Because
podcast.
we're just so handsome.
We're just sitting here. Why would you watch it instead? I don't care. You can watch it.
Because we got the towpath.
Towpath. Get some.
Get some.
All right, so you can find the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, Castro, and so many more. Basically, wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever you get it.
Is that it?
That's a wrap.
Wow.
Ronnie,
Yeah.
a lot of people remember
The Titans?
Goldberg's first match was against Hugh Morris, but very few people remember his second match. Do you know whose second victory was against?
No.
The Barbarian. Here's what else I would say. Just don't be satisfied being a part of the problem. Be the whole problem.
And remember, only you can prevent river fires. Tap In Media.
Burning River Sportscast.
Burning River Sportscast. We're out of here. F 'em all.
F 'em all.